When Peggy Pettis died, what were the red flags that led you to the murderer?
Peggy had been trying to obtain a new life insurance policy right prior to her passing. It seemed like it was more money than they would have normally requested.
Families were not buying the initial account of what had happened to his wife.
He's reconnected with an old high school flame. He seems to be pursuing this relationship.
Was there another motive?
We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it would all go to him.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Spokane, Washington. A wife of 33 years died from a mixture of pain medication and alcohol in what appeared to be an accidental overdose. But family members questioned the motives of someone close to the victim, and police soon discovered an incriminating trail that led to the killer. Rural Spokane, Washington. 62-year-old Peggy Pettis was enjoying her golden years with her husband on the family farm. They lived an idyllic life filled with nature and family.
The home where the Pettises lived was idyllic, the kind of community where you know your neighbors.
One night, the couple's idyllic life was interrupted.
911 received a phone call from David Pettis, and he indicated that his wife was on the floor and having some problems medically.
It was a typical night for Dave and Peggy. They were watching their favorite shows, and usually they would have a late night treat. And after Peggy had consumed her ice cream, she became critically ill, and Dave Pettis called 911 frantically looking for help for his wife.
In the 911 call, he is administering CPR to his wife. Fire personnel and a deputy arrived at the scene, and it was finally determined that Peggy was not going to survive this.
And then investigators with the medical examiner's office were called to the scene to try to figure out what could have happened.
When interviewed by the deputy, David Pettis explained that his wife, she is on minimal medications. She may be suffering some dementia, nothing that would appear to cause her death. But based on her age and the scene as it was found, there didn't appear to be anything suspicious.
Spokane County deputies learned that Peggy had been dealing with long-term pain from an injury. Her husband, Dave, was there, helping her manage it.
Peggy was injured while working on their farm. She was taking pain medication to try to manage that chronic pain, and she was doing so with hydrocodone. David Pettis did paint the picture that he was the doting husband, that he was trying to nurse his wife back to health, and he had said she had chronic medical problems and that they were only getting worse.
The Pettis family was left to grieve Peggy's death. She was a mother of 4, and a sister lived next door on another farm. While the medical examiner began a routine autopsy, Lyle Johnston learned of Peggy's death.
A few days after Peggy Pettis's death, I was in the office. My sergeant came to me, handed me this report of a death in which the family was suspicious of David Pettis and that he had maybe had something to do with his wife's death. And so I contacted Peggy's sister, Melissa, and she started giving me a rundown of all of the things that had transpired in the couple of days around Peggy's death.
Families were not buying the initial account of what Dave said had happened to his wife, and they reached out to the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. They wanted a second look. They wanted assurance that this was going to be fully investigated, because to them, this just did not pass the smell test.
So what was your initial belief? The family obviously thought the husband was involved. What did you think?
Most often what we see is a family member who can't accept that their loved one has passed away for some unexplained reason. So my initial contact with Melissa, I'm thinking to myself that this is probably a sister that doesn't want to accept the death of a loved one, that this came out of the blue, and that a deputy as well as the medical examiner had already been out there and didn't see anything suspicious.
It was a strange story that this woman would lace essentially her own evening dessert with a deadly amount of pain pills. I think that everyone was kind of giving it the side eye, and they were suspicious almost immediately.
Once Melissa began explaining the situation to me and I got more detail, it definitely became very suspicious in the way that Dave had been acting leading up to the death, communications that he was having even near the time of her death, and things that he had said following her death.
Spokane County deputies noted everything the family members were telling them. They were now equally suspicious, but had to tread carefully.
When an investigator is starting an investigation of this type, you make sure that you cover all of the bases in terms of seeking out the factual information that you can, sometimes before you even make those contacts and those interviews. So anything that I could follow up immediately with, I was trying to do so. There's a whole host of ways that this investigation can go sideways.
While the investigation into Peggy Pettis' death moved forward, the Pettis family prepared to say their final goodbyes to Peggy, and the grieving husband exhibited some unusual behavior.
David had told everyone that he needed the money from the life insurance policies in order to be able to pay for the funeral. He is already talking about selling his home and leaving the area immediately following her death, and it seems highly suspicious.
The more police learned about Dave Pettis, the more alarms began to go off, and this was just the beginning. Spokane County detectives investigating the suspicious death of Peggy Pettis had her husband firmly on their radar. Cops began to look closer into Dave Pettis' recent activities online and off, and his behavior wasn't that of a grieving spouse.
In Spokane County, when we have an unattended death, there will be an autopsy, and the toxicology results takes numerous weeks to come back. David was very demanding right up front that he needed the results.
He wanted answers right then. He would frequently call them, hound them, is really how they described it.
He needed the death certificate. He couldn't file for life insurance without it. He wanted to know what the results were going to be. And he called the medical examiner's office numerous times trying to get answers as to the autopsy, and then even trying to call the governor's office because this was not being resolved.
The sheriff's office was making sure that they were documenting this strange activity because it certainly seemed inconsistent with a grieving husband who had just lost his wife of decades.
David was saying he needed this money in order to pay for her funeral services. So after the funeral, I had gone to the funeral home to find out if the funeral had in fact been paid for. Funeral had actually already been paid for.
So they just knew again they had caught him in a lie.
Detective Johnston discovered that there was more to this than met the eye.
Peggy's sister, Melissa, told me immediately of a new life insurance policy that Peggy had been trying to obtain right prior to her passing. That seemed unusual because it seemed like it was more money than they would have normally requested.
Then they have multiple life insurance policies, and he was the beneficiary. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it would all go to him.
So things were really adding up that the husband was involved in Peggy's death. Were there any other red flags?
Medical examiner eventually got the toxicology report back, and there was 10 times the therapeutic amount of hydrocodone in Peggy Pettis' system, which means she consumed a significant amount of hydrocodone in a short period of time.
The numbers were truly wow, and it showed there really was more to this story and more work that needed to be done.
You have to wonder whether it's an overdose, accident, or on purpose. And with that amount, it would seem like that was more a purposeful ingestion.
Dave had said that their routine was to have some drinks at night, have dessert, watch their favorite shows, and that night Peggy was under the influence of alcohol. Well, the autopsy told a different story.
Toxicology report showed no alcohol, which is direct opposite of what David Pettis had claimed. Dave Pettis kept changing his story. He had told some people that he had crushed up pills for Peggy as he was preparing her evening drink. Other people he had told she had done this. He tried to play into the fact that supposedly she had dementia, and that might have been the reason why she took too much medication.
Circumstantial evidence was piling up that Dave Pettis was somehow involved in the death of his wife, Peggy. And then police say they learned from Peggy's family that he may have had another motive for wanting her out of the way.
Family began to be suspicious of Dave and his feelings and attraction for another woman that had re-entered the picture. They were reporting his social media activity to the sheriff's office saying, take a look at this. Could this have been a motive for Peggy's death?
During my interviews with Melissa and other family members, they began telling me he has made some recent trips to New York State, where he's from. He's reconnected with an old high school flame. There are some text messages that are found in which the two of them are telling one another that they love each other and they are somewhat planning a future together.
This was a woman that Dave did have a history with, and he was suddenly almost obsessed with her.
Dave did have a Facebook account, and he had posted on there his love for Robin Kaler in New York, and then tried to explain it when he was talking to me and everyone else. Oh, it's a friendship type love. This isn't a romantic thing. However, other text messages that I'm reading of his would say the opposite.
Police needed to speak with the suspect and hear his side of the story, and they'd find out that Dave Pettis was full of surprises. The death of Peggy Pettis was looking more and more like a homicide. Police believed Peggy's doting husband Dave was hiding something. It was time to have a face-to-face with the grieving widower.
I called Dave Pettis into the sheriff's office for an interview. He was very manipulative in his discussions with me. Whenever I would ask him a question that he didn't want to answer, he would go off on a tangent and come up with some other entity to talk about.
What would you say was the most telling moment in your face-to-face interview with Dave Pettis?
At one point during the interview, the other detective that was assisting me interjected that potentially Peggy had committed suicide, which David denied, because if he admits this, then he won't get the life insurance.
He kind of met his match. These are seasoned detectives.
David definitely thought that he was the smartest person in the room, because every time you talked about something, he would have an answer.
The sheriff's office wanted the deal. What was going on with Dave and this former high school or childhood love interest? They thought, this just does not seem right. It does not seem appropriate. But Dave was quick with answers. He said, yeah, they talked a lot, but that his wife not only knew about it, but was okay with this friendship.
Following their interview with Dave Pettis, detectives reached out to Robin, his old flame in New York. She told a different story.
She actually had her own suspicions of Dave's involvement, because David had tried to make plans to go see Robin, and Robin was a little bit taken back by the fact that he would come back out to see her immediately or so soon after his wife's passing.
The two of them clearly had a romantic relationship. They were in almost constant communication. They talked on the phone, they used Messenger, they were texting, sharing inappropriate images.
In the midst of a murder investigation, Dave Pettis began a campaign to defend his reputation. As news spread that he was a suspect in Peggy's death, Dave went straight to the source.
Dave Pettis reached out to me. He wanted to get his side of what happened out there, and he invited myself and my photographer out to their land in Cheney.
Dave, I have to ask, did you murder your wife, Peggy?
No, ma'am, I didn't. Where?
The suspect's attempt to rewrite a narrative of his wife's death was too little, too late. The wheels of justice were already in motion.
I had an arrest warrant drawn up for him, and when he came in for the interview, I presented him with a search warrant for his cell phone, an arrest warrant for his arrest, and up until that point, I believe he thought that he was going to walk out of there a free man again that day.
His arrest was a big story, and what I think people really were just so blown away by was how she died, lacing ice cream with a fatal amount of painkillers.
I ended up testifying in this case. I can remember looking at the defense table, and he was fairly confident that this was going to work out in his favor.
Some referred to it as the ice cream killer. The details were very horrifying, very disturbing. Dave Pettis's camp said he didn't do it. That was it possible Peggy Pettis put the own fatal concoction into her ice cream?
But the jury wasn't buying what Dave Pettis was selling. They saw through the smartest man in the room act.
When the other woman took the stand, I think everyone was on pins and needles and listening to every word she had to say. And when she talked about him reaching out to real estate agents near where she lived, that was one of those moments where people gasped. That was critical to the prosecution, and that was something the defense just could not come back from.
You killed Peggy for exactly this reason, because you wanted it all.
So when the verdict was read, David kind of hung his head down, and I remember more of a reaction out of his daughter, Elizabeth, that didn't want to accept it. She left the courtroom rather quickly, and just a huge sigh of release from Peggy's side of the family.
Dave Pettis was about to learn his fate for murdering Peggy, his loving wife of 33 years. The actions of Dave Pettis divided his family. Most believed the verdict that he was guilty of murdering his wife, Peggy. However, one daughter stood by him in the face of overwhelming evidence. Regardless, Dave was sentenced to life in prison. And now, it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. While no one can predict the future, there are safety precautions you can take in a relationship or marriage to help maximize your financial, mental, and physical safety. If your spouse is emotionally or physically cheating or making suspicious financial moves, like taking out multiple life insurance policies, it may be best to exit the relationship for your safety. Also, while most family members have good intentions, it's important that only you or a trained medical professional administer medication. And finally, if you eat or drink something that smells or tastes funny, stop eating it. Discard it immediately. Romantic relationships may end, but your relationship with yourself lasts a lifetime. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.